So, can you believe it's a whole week since we last talked about being stationery lovers? I know, does time fly when you're having fun? This week we're talking about writing implements. I've got my little box of tricks here. This is just stuff that I use on a fairly regular basis. So let's go through it all. Now, before we start, I know you probably realised that we're missing a video from Cara this week. She's not been too well, so she'll be uploading her video when she's feeling a little bit better. And you've got one coming from Kirsty on Friday, so keep an eye out for those. Usual links in the description bar, but for the time being, I've got my little pot of pens here. These are just my favourite pens, pencils, writing implements. You did see a sneak preview of this last week. And I realised whilst I was editing that I was going to be talking about this on a video dedicated to writing implements, so just whiz through it. And so I'm just going to pick at random pens from here and explain why I love them. And if they're branded, I'll give you the brand as well. So the first ones out of the pot are my friction pens. This is just two examples of pink and a red. I've probably had every colour under the sun. The reason I like these so much is they're a nice gel type pen to write with. They've got a nice rubber barrel which is great to hold, medium thickness barrel, which is okay. I'm not a huge lover of thin barrels, which we'll come to in a minute. Friction pens do rub out, that's what makes them unique, and it's just this rubber tip. Well, it's not even a rubber tip, it's a specially designed tip on the end that rubs out this specially designed ink. I always keep one knocking about somewhere, even in the bottom of my handbag. Next out of the pot is, see, this takes me straight back to my childhood. I was always a huge lover of these four colour pens. The lighting here is awful, sorry about that. But just these four colour pens. I mean, this is a purple barrel, really thick barrel. So this is one of my favourite pens to write with. But we've got on here, we've got purple, pink, blue and green. And that represents the ink that's in here. And you've just got the four inks, the four biros in there. Now, I tend to use this this type of pen when I'm making notes in my diary. So I used to colour code my Filofaxes, I know. So we had different colours for different things to do with work and to do with home and everything. I'm not quite so anal about it now, but I still like to have a colour system in, sort of, and this pen is ideal just for picking it up and doing that. Next out of the pot are highlighters. Who doesn't love a good neon highlighter? Now, these aren't really branded. This is just, I think these are just from the works, so probably £1 for four of them. This one's got a triangular barrel and it's got a chiselled nib, and this one here forms part of my orange planning system. Again, just a chiselled nib on there. Round barrel, and I just always have something like this knocking around just so that I can highlight specific parts of my planning. Don't really use them too much, but yeah, quick slash with a neon highlighter and I'm all happy again. Next is a brand that has stayed with me since childhood again. It's the Parker pen. Now, I remember receiving a Parker pen as a prize in a writing competition, I think, or a poetry competition or something like that, when I was a little girl, and it was at the time one of the best pens that I'd ever written with. So Parker's always been a brand that I've been a big fan of. Now, these are my two current Parker pens. This one here is a gel pen, again a thick barrel, which I quite like writing with. It's got, I think that is a 0.7 nib. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's a 0.7 nib. So it's a thick barrel, fine nib. But it's a gel ink, so I quite like writing with that. And this one is a Parker mechanical pencil. It's a bit of a thin barrel, but these two were staples in my Filofax when I was using my Filofax. Yeah, like I said, just childhood favourites. And I think when you're younger, if you find a brand that you really love, you do tend to stick to that brand and revert back to it, purely for nostalgic reasons sometimes. Next out of the pot, my two current fountain pens. I've got this platinum, which has been leaking a little bit, and I've got my Lamy, which hasn't been leaking a little bit, I've reviewed these before on my blog. I'll leave a link below so you can go and have a look at them. I think it was for Fountain Pen Day or Fountain Pen National Stationery Week or something, but there'll be a link in the description bar. I use them quite regularly. As you can see, I've probably not used the platinum for a while. That's been upside down in the pot for a little bit. But two fountain pens. I do love writing in ink, and as I say, we'll come to that in a minute. But I always like to have a fountain pen around because I do think like cards are really nice, and if I have to handwrite a letter, I always go straight for a fountain pen. Next is a little bit of a surprise for me. This is quite a chunky pencil. It's not the most comfortable writing implement to hold. It's called a Shorty, and this was from Bureau Direct when I was working with them. It was one of my hot picks when I was reviewing things, and it's got specific nibs in it that can write on different coloured nibs write on different coloured surfaces. So one writes on glass, one writes on X-rays, I think that was the red one. One writes on wood, and they are erasable. There is a nib, I've got a biro nib that I can put in there as well, but they are a mechanical style pencil, but rather than it being, you put the whole nib in. Anyway, there is a whole review on this somewhere on my blog. Again, I'll link below if I can find it. But it was always been a handy chunky pencil to have in the bottom of my handbag. I tend not to carry this one around with me at the moment, but it is one that I do go back to when I need to scribble some notes. Bit of a thick nib, but occasionally I do like that. So next is Fineliners. These are always really good. I write probably daily with a Fineliner. I've got one here, the black one, in my bullet journal, or attached to my bullet journal I should say. These are just two other colours that I write with them, and there's a green and an orange there. Again, orange to go with the planning system this year. Whilst I like the fineness of the nib, the thinness of the barrel, and this is a triangular shape, which I did mention, I do like writing with the triangular shaped. It does sit very well, because I always rest my pen on my ring finger rather than on my middle finger. So this is why I need a thicker barrel, because the way in which I hold the pen, it's really hard to show you like that, the way in which I hold the pen, it doesn't rest against my hand properly, it cups it differently. So this is why I like to hold a thicker barrel. Really long drawn out explanation there, but yeah, this is one of the really old-fashioned traditional Carpenter's pencil. It is by Field Notes, and it was bought at Bureau Direct again, and as you can see, it's never been sharpened. Now I've got 3 of these in a pack. 2 of them went straight into my husband's shed. One of them he was using to mark out wood when he was building the roof of the shed, and it's pinged off onto the next door neighbour's conservatory roof, so we'll never get that back. But I didn't realise I still had any of these, but I just found it, and these always remind me of my dad doing DIY around the house. He used to sharpen the end with a Stanley knife. I mean, you can't actually get that in a sharpener because it's hexagonal shape. So yeah, carve it down with a Stanley knife, and he always marked off the wood when he was doing his DIY. So another bit of nostalgia, again going back to my childhood, but they are really good crafts, sort of like, you know, tradesman crafts, DIY pencils, so we'll always have some of those knocking around. This was one that I hopped on a lot about last week that luckily you didn't hear about, but this is a Live Scribe Echo pen, and this was a bit of a genius revelation for me. This was the year before. Now, this is how it works. It records speech. It has, if I can get the end of it off, a biro so you can write notes, but it also has a camera in the end of it, so it photographs the notes as you're writing them, and you can Bluetooth it or Wi-Fi it, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, I always get mixed up between the two, it to your Evernote. So it collates all your conference notes, or you know, so like when you're sitting down taking notes, listening to somebody speaking, it collates everything so you can have them all in your Evernote. And it's just a genius piece of kit. And last but by no means least is, yes, it's that dinky little pen, the J. Herbin ink Rollerball, again from Bureau Direct. I promise I'm not sponsored by them anymore, but they have such good products on that website that I will always recommend them. So this is a Rollerball pen with ink cartridges. My current ink of choice is a purpley grey colour. Lames de Cassis. It writes brilliantly. I love it. It's a nice thick barrel. It is quite short, so I always have to have the cap on the end of the barrel when I'm writing. My only negative about it is the fact that the barrel is plastic and it splits very easily, hence the piece of washi tape around it. This is my second one. The barrel split on the first one and it became unusable, but as you can see I have replaced it, and I will replace it again and again and again if I have to. It started off a bit scratchy, but once the roller actually got going, and this is my everyday go-to ink pen, and this is why I'm very particular about the type of notebooks that I use. They have to have thick ink, thick note paper, so that I can use this pen. If they've got quite thin note paper in them, then the two just don't gel. So that is my weapon of choice on a daily basis. I mean, I know I use my fine liner in my bullet journal, but even in there I've still got lists and to-do notes and all bits and pieces using this pen. So there you have it, the writing implements that I use on a very regular basis. Now it's your turn. You have to let me know what you write with. Do you have a favourite pen or pencil, or do you just pick up any old biro that you find knocking around the house? Let me know in the comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to hop on over to watch Kirsty's video on Monday. Watch out for Cara uploading her video as soon as she's feeling better. All the links in the usual place. Yeah, subscribe to everybody, do the usual, and it's been great talking to you today. Thank you very much. Bye for now.